Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit True of My Chest and it's by user Weenie Button. My dad is having an affair with a 29-year-old woman. Some backstory. Almost a year ago, my family experienced the loss of my grandpa, my dad's father. It was sudden and it struck my father really hard. He started having more emotional outbursts, being more reclusive, etc. And we tried our best to be understanding and help him in any way he needed. He found himself a therapist and seemed to be working through a lot of his feelings and thoughts. He still wasn't acting entirely like the him we once knew, but death affects everyone differently, and this made his behavior easy to excuse. My dad and I don't live in the same city, so we often meet up at halfway points for lunch. We have always been close, so it's common for us to talk about our feelings and recent life events. Now, the story. During our first lunch since my grandpa's passing, I noticed my dad talking a lot about this new girl at his work. We will call her Stacy. He said that Stacy was helping him a lot with his trauma and being there for him. Stacy's husband had been through some similar traumas that my dad had experienced, and that was being brought up in therapy, so he said she offered him support. He really felt he could be himself around her. He made it abundantly clear that he could not feel he could be himself around his wife of 20 years, my mom, but that he could with Stacy. I thought this was an odd comment to make, and I think this is where my suspicions of their real intentions began, but I knew he was struggling. It made me feel relieved that he had someone he trusted. It struck me a little weird that she was 29, but again, sometimes workplaces can create weird and unexpected friendships. Also, with me being 26, I wondered if maybe he saw her as another daughter, since I wasn't able to be around much due to distance. He assured me that Stacy was married to a man named Andrew. They were strictly friends. But in his own words, people from his work had started to think something was going on between them, so they had stopped talking at work and had moved to texting. He even went so far as to later in the conversation say that he thinks a strong marriage should be able to survive some cheating. I told him that that wasn't healthy and that I was not sure what kind of relationship he wanted with his wife, but I did not want a relationship founded on infidelity. Obviously, my alarm bells were going off. With what little information I had on Stacy, I went and found her online. I stalked her, and just like my dad said, she was seemingly in a young, happy marriage with Andrew. She kept her social media pretty private, but from what I could see, she looked like your average 29-year-old woman. I couldn't possibly imagine what she would want with my dad, and if anything, I thought maybe my dad had a work crush that he was reading too much into. No one wants to think that their dad could be capable of a full-blown affair. Over the next few visits with my dad, I would hear him continually talk about Stacy, telling stories about work or his friends. She always seemed to come up. I couldn't help but notice that he would avoid calling her by name. He would just be she, her, or a girl from work. It's as if he completely forgot the things he had told me about her, or as if he was afraid to say her name around me. Infidelity is never mentioned again, but he is always talking about how he's fighting with my mom, Lily. How as he goes through therapy, she might not like the man he's becoming. He tells me how he's standing his ground and getting into verbal arguments with her. Looking back, I imagine this is self-sabotage due to his guilt because of the cheating. Fast forward to today, about a year since I first heard about Stacy. I went on my laptop, which I do not use often. I opened Instagram and I realized I still had my dad's login credentials saved on my computer from a one-off back years ago. My dad has always been sketchy with his passwords, so I assumed that it wouldn't work, but I tried to log in anyway, and to my surprise, I was in. I won't even pretend like I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, or like I'm above looking through his DMs. This is also where I effed around and found out. I opened their DMs, which were pretty bleak at first. I thought that I could rest my suspicions, more like hoped, until I couldn't. It started with sending corny photos to each other. Things about, you can kiss me whenever you want, I'm yours, and your arms feel like home and I'm homesick. Really weird juvenile crap. Things I wouldn't send to a coworker if you paid me. Still in denial, I kept scrolling, and that's when I saw it. Nudes. From her only, thank God. Full-blown sexting conversations. Conversations about their existing partners and the potential of leaving them for each other. I love yous, conversations with their plans to sleep together for the first time, etc, etc, etc. You get the picture. All of my suspicions were laid out in front of me. He was willing to risk it all for a married woman 3 years older than his daughter. He was willing to hurt the woman he had supposedly loved for 20 years, destroy his family, and to destroy Stacy's family for what? Absolute effing selfishness. The worst part for me was that they actively talked about their existing partners in this chat. Stacy is always making fun of my mom. Does Lily wear lazy bras for you? Does Lily let you do the things I do? Low. As if Stacy couldn't become more of a disgusting human, as if she's not already sleeping with a married 53-year-old father of two, she has to degrade his wife, an innocent victim in this situation. They told each other that they love their current partners so much that it hurts, and they don't understand how they can have the capacity to love two people at the same time. It is disgusting and childish. I don't know how this ends. They still work closely together. I cannot bring myself to tell my mom. I don't want my dad to know I know. I don't want him to feel backed into a corner like he has to tell my mom. I want him to tell my mom because he knows it's the right thing to do. I have looked up to my dad my whole life, and I feel like the whole view I have had of him as this selfless, loving, caring family man has been shattered. I'm so disappointed in his actions, and I don't know what to do. It's eating away at me. Well, Opie, of course, this situation sucks in so many levels. Starting with your dad being a cheater, Stacy also, everybody sucks here except you and your mom at this point. And of course, you're in a horrible position where you have this information and you want your dad to do the right thing, but you know in your heart of hearts that he will not. I'm so sorry this whole situation has broken the image of this man that you hadn't loved so much, but he's a cheater. And every day that this continues, he keeps betraying your mother. So of course, you've got two choices. You can become complicit in this and just hide it from him, which is not what I suggest because, well, you just shouldn't. Or you can take the information, show it to your mom and expose the affair. Don't give your dad the chance to do it first because, well, he then has the chance to control the narrative. And you also send it to Stacy's husband. If you want to take it a step further, you send it to HR and that'll probably end both of their careers. That last one, of course, is up to you, but you should definitely tell your mom. She deserves to know that this is going on, and Stacy's husband as well. And what do you guys think OP should do with this information? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Overall Scholar 4676 says, "You can't really believe he will confess to your mom after all this time. How can you look at or talk to your mom knowing you are betraying her as well as her husband? I would be all over the 29-year-old. You can reach out anonymously saying you know about her affair with a coworker, and if she doesn't want her husband to know, it's best to end it immediately." And Opie responds, "I'll be honest, I don't necessarily feel that I'm betraying my mom as this is not something that should fall on me to tell. I don't want to feel that I'm responsible for tearing the family apart in some weird way. This should be coming from my father. I feel for her husband in the sense that he is also a victim, but I don't believe I owe him anything. This is on Stacy and my father." Max Zaddy says, "Honestly, I don't know how you will be able to look at your dad knowing how he talks about your mom to you while also having a full-blown affair. I would take screenshots of the conversation and tell him you know." And Opie responds, "I did take screenshots. At the time, I wasn't sure what for other than to show my fiance, but I do have them just in case. I really don't know how I'm going to be able to look at him either. Distance is a blessing until I figure out what I need to do." And certain MSP says, "Sorry you effed around and found out. You cannot reverse that. Now you are in the conspiracy and you can keep silent and be your father's silent co-conspirator against your mother, or you can tell him that you know and that you are disappointed in him. Alternatively, if you know where they are meeting, come up with an innocuous reason to be there and see them." Additional information from OP's comments. I feel like when people haven't gone through what I'm going through, they think it's just as simple as calling up their mom and blowing her whole life up. Yes, cheating is bad. I do not support my dad, but there's so much more involved in this than just calling him up and giving him an ultimatum. I am scared of his reaction. I am scared of anyone even believing me. I also have a younger brother who is a minor that I have to worry about. However, I have decided I'm going to tell my mom, as she deserves to have the upper hand in decision making since, unbeknownst to her, my father has been the holder of all decisions for months. I'm currently just waiting for a time when she's not around my dad so I can call her and drop the bomb. They're currently driving up to their cottage together, so it doesn't feel fair for me not to let her have room to grieve or figure out her next move. Alright, well, the community in unison is telling OP that she should tell her mom. OP was fighting it at the beginning, saying it wasn't her responsibility, but eventually it seems the community was able to make her understand what she needs to do, and she is going to do it. She's just waiting for the right time. Now, OP has given us 2 updates, one really close to the original post and one 4 months after. So now let's continue with the first one, but before that, if you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to click that like button, leave a comment with your opinion, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Now let's move on with the update. So, I finally called my mom. She and my dad had spent the day together at their cottage, so I waited until they were home and then asked if she could go somewhere alone so we could talk on the phone. Her reaction was nothing like I imagined. She sounded like she already knew. Her reaction also made me feel like this wasn't the first time this has happened. She laughed and asked me what I thought I saw. Then she blamed herself and said that she doesn't meet my dad's needs. I explained to her that that was not fair and that she didn't deserve to be lied to, cheated on, and put at risk for STDs. I said the way they spoke about my mom in the chat was disgusting and that this was wrong. She asked to see the screenshots, so I sent them to her. She kept reassuring me that she and my dad were in it for the long haul and wouldn't divorce. I told her I didn't care about that. I said that no matter her decision, I supported her either way. Even though it wasn't what I was anticipating, I felt relieved. I felt like a weight had been lifted. She thanked me for telling her and said that I would always be her sweet girl. Everything seemed to be going well until she spoke to or confronted my dad and called me back. I don't know what happened with the conversation between her and my dad, but it's clear that he is a master manipulator and not at all the person I thought he was prior to all of this. My mom's tone had completely shifted on the phone. She was scolding me. He confirmed the affair. He confirmed everything I had said and brought forward to her. Somehow, they're blaming me. They're telling me I'm wrong. My mom told me that she'd read all the screenshots I sent, but had nothing to say about them. They're staying together, and in her words, this is just a bump in the road. They've had highs and lows, and they'll have lows again. I said I would support her either way, so I can't be mad, but I can't help but be sad at how low she thinks of herself to accept this behavior. She said, "I love your dad and he loves me." What a horrible message to send to your child. She told me that guilt does bad things to people and that she thinks I got myself worked up over nothing. She told me it was wrong of me to look at his Instagram messages and that it was a breach of trust. Ironic considering my dad committed the biggest breach of trust there is in a marriage. I also never would have looked at his messages had he not planted the seed of infidelity in my brain. She explained that my dad was very angry with me and that she didn't know if our relationship was repairable. I assumed my dad would be mad at me, of course, but for my mom to seemingly side with him and turn her back on me too is almost too much to take. I know she's being manipulated, but this is where it ends, I guess. I can't stand to look at either of them. I feel like I was just orphaned. I can't fight a fight someone doesn't want me to on their behalf. Deep down, I know I'm not to blame for this, don't get me wrong, but it's really hard not to feel awful when your parents, whom you've trusted, turn their back on you. I do feel like I did right by myself in telling my mom the truth, but I can't help but think that everything would have been easier if I had never said anything. My dad still follows Stacy, but he has blocked my fiance and me on all social media platforms. He's quite literally showing that he chooses his affair partner over his daughter. I know he's reacting out of embarrassment and anger, but I blocked him in return. He doesn't get to choose when he comes back into my life. All of this hurts a lot. Wow, OP, your dad is a piece of work. And your mom, damn, I'm sorry for her that she's letting herself get manipulated like this. Maybe there's more to the story that none of us know. However, one thing I would do is blow up Stacy's marriage. If the bridge is already burnt, let's just turn it into ashes. Anyways, like I said before, we have one final update. So let's finish this story with that. My fiance and I are still engaged and don't have a set wedding date. When we do get married, it'll be either at a small courthouse or an elopement, with my family not involved at all. In regard to my dad, short answer, nope, still an absolute idiot. Longer version goes as follows. I've been working with a therapist to figure out what I really want to come of all of this and how I can proceed with or without my family. I initially settled on no contact with my dad and low contact with my mom. After some thinking, I decided that I wanted to have my dad in my life and rebuild at least an amicable relationship with him. I understand that that may not be what everyone would choose, but I really couldn't imagine my big life events and my future without my dad. So I reached out to my mom via text and asked her if she believed my dad was still too angry with me to talk. She urged me not to reach out, asked me to continue leaving the door open, and told me that she was encouraging my dad to do the same for me. At that point, I decided that if he had to be encouraged to leave the door open for his younger daughter, then maybe it actually wasn't worth reaching out to him. He ended up texting me the next day and said that he had unblocked my number, but he wasn't ready to talk. I then waited 3 weeks for him to text me, but received nothing more. I reached out just asking for a timeline for when I can expect that he will be ready to talk, and he replied saying he has been waiting for me to contact him. What? The conversation started fine. He said he loved me and he missed me. He said that we were just going to have to agree to disagree on the whole situation. I explained that wouldn't be happening and that I didn't care about the cheating. That's not my problem. I told him that my problem is how he has hurt me and how his silent treatment affected me. This is obviously not what he wanted to hear. I'll save you all the nitty-gritty. The conversation ended with him saying he was mad at me because I didn't come to him first and give him a chance to come clean. But in the same message, he said that if I had kept my nose out of his business, he would have taken the secret to the grave and that it was me who hurt my mom because I told her. He repeatedly demanded that I apologize to my mom for hurting her. What? And apologize to him for betraying his trust. There was a lot more to the conversation, of course, but to wrap this all up, I doubled down that I did nothing wrong. He is the one who betrayed his wife, and if my mom would like an apology, she is more than welcome to reach out to me directly. Other than that, we're done here. His number is blocked. I don't plan on unblocking him. I feel confident in my decision this time. I don't feel like he and I are existing in the same reality. I don't feel like he's the dad I once knew. Sorry this is so long and not a happy ending at all, but it does feel nice to get this all out there. Thanks for following along with my story, and I'll do my best to share here if there are any more major updates. But I truthfully feel like this might be the end of it all. God, please let it be the end. Laughing smiley face. Wow, OP, I am so sorry that your dad is such a huge sack of crap, minus the sack. Unless the sack is also made of crap, in which case he's just pure crap. I am sorry, of course, that this is the end of your relationship with your dad because, well, having a relationship with your dad should be a good thing. Again, when your dad is not a piece of crap like in your case. So in your case, I think it's a good thing that he's out of your life. As for your mom, she's still deep in it. Hopefully someday she'll see the light and come out of it. But you can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. Also, I would still want to blow up Stacy's life. Just saying, just putting it out there. Anyways, here's wishing you and your fiancé the best in the future, OP. Thanks for sharing and take care. And after all of that, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user Paplapa Humbug. I gave inside information to an interview candidate. I interviewed for a job. I did not get selected for the next round. I was a bit bitter about it. The feedback was that they wanted someone with more experience in X. I didn't have that much experience in X, so that seemed fair. Today, I found out that of the two people in the final round of interviews, only Lisa has more experience in X than I do. The other candidate, Bart, has zero experience in X but is a preferred candidate because they have a VP supporting them. F that noise. I reached out to Lisa and asked her for coffee. During coffee, I told her the format of the second round interview, what the questions will be, who will be on the panel, and what they're looking for from the responses. Lisa probably didn't need my help and could have gotten it on her own merit, but F favoritism and work politics. Absolutely agreed, OP. F favoritism and work politics. One of the reasons why I left my corporate job. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.